Tonight begins with the aftermath of the Washington, D.C. shooting, for which President Donald Trump has ordered a comprehensive review of all green cards issued to nationals from 19 countries deemed of concern. But the good news is Nigeria is spared. This is amid President Trump's immigration crackdown following the fatal shooting of a National Guard member by Afghan suspect Ramanullah Lakanwal. The list includes Afghanistan, Burma, Myanmar, Chad, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen, Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. A Rivers State High Court in Port Harcourt has convicted and sentenced Damian Okoligwe, a 400-level student of the University of Port Harcourt, to death by hanging for the murder of his girlfriend, Justina Otuene. Okoligwe, a petrochemical engineering student, killed Otuene, a 300-level biochemistry student, on October 20, 2023, at his apartment in Ubiakwo local government area. He dismembered her body and dumped it in a wheelbarrow, planning to dispose of it before his arrest. The trial judge, Justice Chinwe Nsirum Nwosu, delivered a judgment stating that the prosecution proved the 3 ingredients of murder against Okoligwe. The judge described Okoligwe's actions as intentional, composed, calculated, and evil, with no contradiction in the evidence. President Bola Tinubu has approved the creation of the National Tax Policy Implementation Committee, NTPIC, to coordinate the rollout of the new tax laws. The committee will be chaired by Joseph Tegbe, with oversight from Finance Minister Wale Edu. In a statement released by Bayo Ononuga, Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, the committee will lead consultations across public and private sectors, harmonize tax rules, and ensure transparency. Members include Sonyade Okoli as secretary and other experts such as Ismail Ahmed and Rukaiya El Rufai. For some perspective, we have Professor Izelem Agbon, a financial expert. Thank you very much for being here with us. You have written a paper on the new tax laws, and you understand this tax law regime. What would it be like? Can you run us through it?
Well, thank you for inviting me. I think after the 2023 election, President Tinubu put together a subcommittee. This was in May 2023. And they came up with a Policy Advisory Council report. It was a National Economic Subcommittee. The consultants were KPMG. And they recommended that the government should broaden the tax base and consolidate the different tax laws in Nigeria into one big tax law that will be all-encompassing. Therefore, the government will be able to increase its revenue. This was the strategy. They are part of their monetary and fiscal policy strategies for sustainable development. So what you see the government trying to do is to implement the 2025 Tax Act that was passed in June. This year. You remember those 4 tax laws: the Nigerian Tax Act of 2025, the Nigerian Revenue Service Bill, the Nigerian Tax Administration Bill, and the Joint Revenue Board. There were these 4 bills that were just pushed through rapidly and signed by the president, and it was called a tax reform bill. But unfortunately, it is not every change that is a reform. And the key point here will be the implementation. This has been the bane for most of Nigerian policy. So the president has set up an implementation policy, and their task is going to be very, very difficult when it comes to mobilizing the task and bordering it and encompassing a lot of Nigerian working class people in this tax bracket, because like you know, the economy is in crisis. We have a condition of stagflation, increasing inflation and increasing unemployment. Under that condition, you cannot get out of that economic problem by fiscal policies only and just increasing the amount of funds that government has or increasing taxation. This strategy might have worked in Lagos State, but I don't think it will work on a national level with respect to Nigerian development.
But is that not the purpose of this committee? And I know you said they have their task cut out for them, but when you have someone like Taiwo Oloyede, and knowing what he's been able to achieve so far, do you feel a sense of optimism that perhaps your concerns would be addressed before the rollout?
No. The thing is that when I'm a consultant, when you are dealing with a consultant like the consultants that wrote the KPMG consultants, they are operating on a model, on a taxation model. So in May 2023, as part of the advisory board, they advised the president on consolidating a lot of taxes. Let me give you an idea of what they consolidated. The whole idea was that you can simplify Nigerian tax law. So they took the Consolidated Company Income Tax Act, the Personal Income Tax Act, the Petroleum Profit Tax Act, the Value Added Tax Act, the Capital Gain Tax Act, and the Stamp Duty Tax Act, put them all together into one tax act of 2025. That is just too big for you to implement. Even in the, let's say, next 6 years, very, very big, because there is multicollinearity between these different tax acts. And you are going to find out that there are so many changes when you are implementing them. You are going to have, it might look simple on paper when you are talking of each of those things and how it will affect foreign companies. But when you are looking at the informal sector in Nigeria, which 80 to 85% of Nigerians are either in the rural area or they are caught up in the informal sectors, those models don't capture the dynamism of this very, very small business that drives the Nigerian economy, and they don't capture the dynamism of the informal sector. So you are going to have your statistic is going to look very good on paper. For instance, last year in 2023, the tax to GDP ratio was 10%, and last year it increased to 13.5%, and the government was very happy. The IMF congratulated them. But on the street and in the household, for 85% of Nigerian people, there was a big increase in poverty. So when you are looking at tax data and you are looking at tax statistics as an economics, you must look at the concrete condition. When you take this data, they look very good on paper, but on the street, a lot of people are suffering.
Okay. So what would you advise?
Minimum tax.
What would you advise? What would be your advice, your recommendation? First off, the committee is a good thing. Let's confirm that from you. The setting up of this committee is a good thing. What would you advise either to the committee or to the government in handling these tax reforms?
Well, I am going to advise that they should focus on really taxing the companies and the rich. And they make sure that there is a very high penalty for those who can afford to be taxed, who are the major tax dodgers in Nigeria. When you put a minimum tax of 800,000 naira, that is below minimum wage. When you have a situation where 85% of the people in Nigeria are poor, you should be able to concentrate. You should have a higher tax bracket that leaves the poor out of the tax base and concentrate your collection of taxes on those who can afford when you broaden the net among the poor, you are going to have resistance. So I suspect they will have a lot of problem in implementation, and if they try to impose it, there will be resistance, both from the poor, the informal sectors, and workers. Meanwhile, in Lagos, you could impose that because you could get all those people to help you collect taxes from the small stores by force, but you cannot do that nationally. Therefore, you are going to have a lot of resistance if they try to implement it. As I'm seeing it on paper, it is impossible to implement unless they focus on companies and the rich. And they make sure that those who do not pay their taxes among the rich and the powerful, both foreign companies and indigenous companies, are punished and publicly seen to be punished. But if you want to do it by just getting those who have bread on their head, they are walking around in the street or a little store, and you want to give everybody a tax identification number that is equivalent to their NIN and BVN, and you want to monitor what comes in and out of their personal account, you are going to have massive resistance from working class people.
So what should Nigerians be doing with this information now? I mean, there's been a lot of talk about this tax, the new tax laws, and how it's going to affect Nigerians. So what would be your advice to them? You've given that the advice to the president, to the presidency and the committee, and you've highlighted some of the challenges. But what about the ordinary Nigerians who will be impacted most by these reforms?
My advice to the committee is to grab the low-hanging fruit. They should tax the rich and the companies, both foreign and indigenous, and leave the little people alone for the meantime. If they come into 2026 by taxing the masses of workers and farmers and the little shops and people with their little stores, then the whole implementation will fail. So they should concentrate on those who are very, very rich and who can afford to give government more tax. This will give them time, and if they are successful in doing this, they should make sure they increase the personal income of the poor so that the poor will not complain when they are taxed and when they start to see this tax. But if you are going to tax workers and farmers without increasing their disposable income, that is not development.
All right, Prof, we'll have to leave it there for now.
Taxation ratio, very good on paper, but it will not affect their individual life.
Okay, I did ask how Nigerians should be reacting, but I think the bulk is with the committee and the federal government, and you've given the best possible advice at the moment. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
I don't want to say that the poor will react by fighting back, so...
Yeah, I get that, I get that.
Thank you.
That's why I didn't press it. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Have a good day.
You too, sir. Coming up tonight, Senate spokesperson debunks claim of payment of ransom for the release of abductees in Kebbi and Kwara State. Stay with us. You're watching tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. United States exempts Nigeria from planned review of green cards issued to migrants from countries of particular concern. Court sentences to death by hanging 400-level student of University of Port Harcourt for murder of girlfriend Justina Otuene. In African Union, ECOWAS suspend Guinea-Bissau following military takeover and ouster of President Umaro Embaló. Thank you for staying with us. The Court of Appeal in Abuja on Friday struck out an appeal filed by the convicted leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu. In the appeal, the IPOB leader challenged what he described as the violations of his fundamental rights by the Director General of the Department of State Services and the Attorney General of the Federation. A three-member panel of the appellate court held that the appeal lacked merit and had become academic following Kanu's conviction and life imprisonment sentence by the Federal High Court in Abuja on November 20. Let's tell you that the spokesperson for the Senate, Yemi Adaramodu, has dismissed claims that the federal government paid ransom to secure the release of school children recently abducted in Kebbi and Niger states. He made the clarification on Friday amid growing public suspicion over the nature of recent rescue operations. Adara Modu, who represents Ekiti South Senatorial District, insisted that the government did not make any financial settlement to the abductors. Even though Bayo Ononuga, Special Advisor on Information and Strategy to President Bola Tinubu, confirmed that security operatives contacted bandits for the release of Kwara kidnapped victims. Away from that, the Nigerian Army has approved the promotion of 28 brigadier generals to the rank of major generals and 77 colonels to brigadier general in a significant reshuffle of its senior leadership. The decision was announced by the Acting Director of Army Public Relations, Lieutenant Colonel Apollonia Anele. Among those elevated to Major Generals are Brigadier General O. Adegbe of the Defense Intelligence Agency, Brigadier General S.M. Ubar, Director of Defense Information, Brigadier General R.E. Hedima, Acting Chief of Military Intelligence Army, and Brigadier General R.T. Utsaha, Deputy Director of Defense Operations, among others. At least 50 youths drawn from across several Nigerian states have received specialized training aimed at reducing post-harvest losses and improving food preservation. The program, facilitated by the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board in partnership with Okeze Increase Nigeria Limited, focuses on solar-powered cold storage and modern agri-tech. News Central's Victor Mbadike reports.
The biggest threats to smallholder farmers across Nigeria. Without proper storage, vegetables, fruits and fish often spoil within hours, wiping out income and discouraging young people from farming. To tackle this, the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, in partnership with Okeze Increase Nigeria Limited, trained at least 50 young entrepreneurs at Soilless Farm Lab in Abeokuta, Ogun State, equipping them with modern technology skills to improve storage, production and marketing practices.
We in Okeze Increase Nigeria Limited, we expect that with what the students have learned so far, they will be able to advance themselves, because agro-tech solution is a smarter way of doing agriculture, change of management and all that. So I expect them to do better in terms of business and also to reach out to the rest of the world.
The 5-day program concluded on Friday, with participants receiving certificates of completion, marking the end of an intensive hands-on training designed to transform agricultural practices among the youths.
I came all the way from Kano. Actually, I came on road. I spent more than 24 hours on road, like coming here, and it's all because I was really anticipating the training, because when I saw the training, I found out that it's in agriculture. It's this with solar panel, like it has green energy in it, so I was really anticipating.
I have learned solid things on this agri-tech because it prevents postal loss for farmers. Coming from the north, the weather is not nice like here, and we grow a lot of crops, for example, that needs solar. Since we are coming from the north, there is enough sunlight. We can utilize that renewable resources like the sun to prevent postal loss in farming.
I'm very much interested in this carbon credits, whereby afforestation is encouraged in order to help to filter the environment.
They took us back to the basics. They were able to explain to us what food system entails, what it is to have food sovereignty, what it is to have food security, what are the major effects of all this if they are not in place.
Beneficiaries hope to return to their respective locations with an informed mindset and knowledge acquired through the training.
Thank you, NCDMB.
In Lagos for News Central, Victor Mbadike.
Many thanks, Victor. The Nigerian Institute of Chartered Arbitrators has opened its 2025 annual conference in Lagos. The conference aims to promote ethical arbitration practices, highlight the benefits of institutional arbitration, and address challenges such as conflicting court decisions on enforcing arbitral awards. There is more in this report. In Lagos, delegates gathered for the opening of the Nigerian Institute of Chartered Arbitrators 2025 Annual Conference and Investiture. The two-day event, themed Strengthening Institutional Arbitration and ADR in Africa, Charting a New Path, brought together judges, lawyers, policymakers and international experts to discuss how Africa can build credible arbitral institutions, reduce court congestion, and inspire investor confidence.
Judges and arbitrators are partners. They are not competitors. Judges are supposed to lend support to arbitrators, especially in terms of the enforcement of awards.
Professor Bankole Shodipo stressed that arbitration must be backed by evidence and data.
The data can show who was appointed. Was it Nigerians that were appointed? Were they male? Were they female? How long did the cases take during arbitration? After arbitration, and you try to enforce, how long did it take in enforcement?
For Modi Ishaka Diko, arbitration in Africa must reflect local realities rather than imported models.
When you want to talk about arbitration, you have to look at how it affects our local investments. So when I describe myself as a local man, I'm being realistic, forgetting the theoretical aspect of international arbitration. As Nigerians, we have to concern ourselves with our local parlance.
Adding a media perspective, News Central's Rosemary Egabo Afolahon spoke on how storytelling can shape public acceptance of arbitration.
Arbitration is designed to be private, flexible and pragmatic, yet many people still view it as distant or exclusive. That perception gap does not come from the system itself. It comes from the stories people hear or the stories people never get to hear.
The president of NICARB, Professor Fabian Ajogu, outlined the Institute's mission and future vision.
We've gone beyond preaching the need for it to trying to strengthen the things that haven't worked out well. I would say it's way above average. There's a lot of room for improvement.
The last day concludes with sessions on banking and fintech disputes. Emphasis was on the role of young arbitrators, institutional mediation, court arbitration collaboration, and ethics in ADR.
One of the key cornerstones of arbitration is the confidentiality of the proceedings, which big commercial parties really do prefer, and it also assists the parties in getting matters heard expeditiously. So it really is just an alternative dispute resolution mechanism that's growing and should be continued to be supported.
The world is moving on. Now we need to move on, adopt best practices in this dispute resolution field, and carry what is beautiful and what is admirable about our culture.
The conference closed with a call to strengthen Africa's arbitration culture and build trust in homegrown dispute resolution. Prominent businessman and philanthropist Olorogun Oscar Ibru has been laid to rest at his ancestral home in Agbaroto, Delta State. Dignitaries from across Nigeria and beyond, including Delta State Governor Sheriff Oburawuri, two-term former governor of the state, Chief James Ibori, Seyi Tinubu, and industry leaders attended the event. News Central's correspondent Austin Azu was present at the event and now reports.
The funeral rites for Olorogun Oscar Ibru kicked off with a service of songs held in Lagos and Delta States, attended by dignitaries who converged to pay their last respects to the first son of the late billionaire Michael Ibru. The occasion then proceeded to the All Saints Cathedral Church, Ugele, Delta State, for the funeral service. In a sermon, the primates of all Nigeria, the Most Reverend Dr. Harry Ndukuba, represented by the Bishop of the Diocese of Warri, Right Reverend Christian Ide, gave a sermon on the need for all to be mindful of life after death.
And in that home, there are many rooms that you will not get there and you say you have no place to lay your head.
After the church service, the funeral procession moved to Ibru's country home in Agbaroto.
A charismatic gentleman, everybody loved him, a great father, a great grandfather, a loyal friend, a good brother. He's definitely made an impact in the world. Everyone will feel his presence lost, but he will continue to live on in our hearts, and we're grateful.
We can say vividly with our mindset word that Oscar was a man of humility, Oscar was a man of the grassroots, and Oscar has no arrogancy in him.
Oscar was a global citizen, and best to describe Oscar as somebody always full of love. You will see him always with his hands outstretched, ready to hug everybody. A beautiful person, a beautiful soul.
Oscar Ibru, who passed away on September 24, 2025, at the age of 67, after a brief illness, was celebrated for his contributions to business, culture, and philanthropy. In Agbaroto for News Central, Austin, Azu.
Moving away from Nigeria, the African Union and ECOWAS have suspended Guinea-Bissau with immediate effect following Wednesday's military coup that ousted President Umaro Embaló. AU Commission Chairperson Mohammed Ali Yusuf condemned the takeover by Brigadier General Denis Ichanha's forces who arrested Embaló. Opposition leaders like Fernando Diaz da Costa and top officials while suspending political institutions, media and borders. ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council acted after an emergency meeting condemning the arrests, including Embaló, favored to win and halting of results, demanding restoration of constitutional order and release of detainees. Let's now tell you about the decision of the International Criminal Court to reject former Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte's appeal for release from detention ahead of his trial on crimes against humanity charges. Presiding Judge Luz de Carranza ruled Friday that Duterte's lawyers failed to provide sufficient precautions against flight risks or interference, despite their humanitarian plea citing his frail health at age 80. The 2016 to 2022 leader, arrested in Manila on March the 11th and held at the Hague's prison, appeared weak during his initial video court appearance. The charges stem from his war on drugs, which rights groups link to thousands of deaths among traffickers and users. Let's take you back to our top story, where President Donald Trump has ordered a comprehensive review of all green cards issued to nationals from 19 countries deemed of concern, in which he spent Nigeria. This is amid President Trump's immigration crackdown following the fatal shooting of a National Guard member by Afghan suspect Ramanullah Lakanwal. Global policy analyst Alexander von Rugen joins me now for this conversation. Thank you for being here. How does the U.S. government plan to address potential security risks associated with nationals from these countries? Is the probing of green cards of world nation citizens the best bet?
Well, you have to understand the background. I mean, this shooting in Washington has created an uproar because the individual was an Afghan national who had worked with the CIA on the ground during the Afghan war and was given permission to come to America under the Friendly Allies Welcome Program. And now he's involved in a shooting against the National Guard. Now, details have been very bleak as to what his motives might have been, but it sparked a reaction as many things do in the Trump administration, they move quickly, of all potential other problems, and it's called for a review of all the green cards that have been issued from individuals from certain countries, especially the war-torn ones, where you can have young men of military age with vast military experience, which could pose a much bigger threat than, say, a housewife. In terms of the classification, I think we are comparing apples with oranges if we talk about Nigeria, because Nigeria was classed as a country of particular concern twice by Trump. It's got nothing to do with green cards or the reasons for the action of countries of concern.
Yeah, but one would think that having classified Nigeria as a country of particular concern when it comes to review for immigrants, that we might be somewhere close to the top of that list. Why do you think Nigeria was exempted?
Well, they are on a list now, but they're being given a particular period of time to do something about it. The concerns with Nigeria are relative to religious persecution of groups within Nigeria from non-sovereign entities. Now, the fact that Nigeria has sent a delegation to Washington in the last week involving police, military, Department of Justice, I think that's a very, very important step in working with America to resolve the issues that they're accused of. Initially, the knee-jerk reaction was to deny. Since then, many whistleblowers and many people have spoken out in Nigeria as to support the claims of this religious attacks on Christians and Muslims, I might add. So if we're making progress, why punish somebody if they're trying to resolve an issue?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Nigeria is all on the list, and that designation allows for future sanctions and waivers, which could include green cards and a permanent pause classification for immigration.
Where do you stand with the suggestion that perhaps Trump is being this response is given is an emotional one, coming off the Washington attack less than 24 hours after that?
Well, like I said, you're getting caught up. Nigeria hasn't been spared. The list relative to Trump's response is countries in conflict. I'm sure Nigeria has its own reasons for conflict. It's very complicated with Nigeria, but they're not at all-out war like South Sudan is, or Afghanistan, or other areas of Africa that are having major problems right now, which justifies restricting immigrants or visitors from those countries. Now, the review of the existing green cards is because this incident happened from a foreign national, an Afghan, that was allowed into the States, that was cleared by the CIA, and given amnesty or whatever you want to call it, and under the program. Had he returned to Afghanistan, well, the Taliban would have killed him because he was working against them. So he was given that permission to stay in the States. Again, we don't know the nature of the attack. He is ex-military, but I mean, let's look at the optics. He brought a pistol to Washington. He traveled across the country. If this was a well-organized attack against America, there would have been sniper rifles, semi-automatic weapons, perhaps some bombs involved. It wasn't. And unfortunately, the two people one gentleman that was shot, and the young lady that died, they were relatively inexperienced soldiers. They were part-time soldiers. One was 20, the other one is 24. So whatever happened in the altercation in Washington, they haven't released the details yet. So I wouldn't speculate and read between the lines of more than what it is. Could be a situation of mental health. To cast a net over many countries and all individuals coming in from there, I guess Trump wants to crack down on the vetting process, and that's what he's supposed to do as president. He wants America to feel safe, and his reaction is maybe, some would say, overreactant, but others would say he's doing his job.
All right, Alexander, thank you for speaking with us.
My pleasure, as always.
Tonight returns with business, sports, and entertainment news. Do stay with us.
This segment is brought to you by MoneyPoint.
The Securities and Exchange Commission has ordered all capital market operators to disclose their compliance status and ensure that every tradable instrument under their management is fully registered by January 2026. This is in line with the Investments and Securities Act, ISA 2025. SEC Director General, represented by the Commissioner, Bola Ajomale, at the 2025 Journalist Academy in Lagos, said the Act establishes a stronger regulatory framework and places clear obligations on operators. Nigeria's economy recorded its 12th straight month of growth in November 2025, driven largely by strong agricultural performance. This is according to the latest Central Bank of Nigeria Purchasing Managers Index, PMI. The composite PMI rose to 56.4 points from 55.4 in October, reflecting broad improvements in production, demand, and business activity. All major sectors expanded during the month, with agriculture posting the highest PMI at 58.2, followed by services at 56.8 and industry at 54.2. Output indices also increased, with agriculture again leading at 61.0. The CBN noted that the PMI captures business sentiment from surveyed firms and does not represent its official policy position. Market Report is next. Nigeria Exchange continued the bullish trend at the end of trading on Friday as the NGX All-Share Index inched up 0.2% points to close at 143,520.53 kobo, representing one minus week loss of 0.14%, while the market capitalization in NGN 91.28 trillion is 91.28 trillion naira. Now to sectoral performance. NGX Banking Index ended trading with on a marginal positive note of 0.30% plus 0.30% for the NGX Insurance Index. It fared a bit better with minus 1.73%. While the NGX Oil and Gas Index minus 0.19%. NGX Consumer Goods Index gained by 0.57% and NGX Industrial Goods 0.13%. That does it for business news. Sports is up next.
This segment is brought to you by MoneyPoint.
Hello and welcome to sports. Moroccan side RS Berkane performed the ultimate smash and grab, scoring in the 97th and 98th minutes to earn a stunning 2-1 win in Uyo against MPFL side Rivers United. Senegalese midfielder Mamadou Kamara's own goal in the 37th minute had given Rivers United a deserved first half lead, which they failed to capitalize on. The Moroccans fought back in the second half, and their greater possession and unrelenting pressure finally paid off in the 7th minute of added time when substitute striker Younes El Kaabi found the back of the net. A shell-shocked Rivers United were given no time to recover as Munir Chouair scored the winner barely 60 seconds later. In another match played earlier today, Algerian side JS Kabylie were held to a goalless draw at home by Young Africans of Tanzania. Meanwhile, the Confederation of African Football is currently holding a diaspora tour for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations, which will be hosted by Morocco next month. The event attracted top African legends, including Super Eagles midfielder Alex Iwobi, former Cameroonian midfielder Alex Song, Ghanaian music icon Stonebwoy, who gave a performance, while Nigerian artist Odumodu Black and former Arsenal vice chairman David Dean were also present. The event, held at the heart of London in Piccadilly Circus, is part of a two-city tour that will move to Paris next week on the 3rd and 4th of December, with the original AFCON trophy present on the 3rd of December at the Palais de Tokyo. The diaspora tour in London continued today with a public event where fans got an opportunity to meet the legends and see the CAF AFCON trophy in person. And here in Nigeria, Bayelsa and Kaduna states have been confirmed as the hosts for the 2028 and 2030 National Sports Festival following resolutions reached at the National Council of Sports meeting in Calabar. The decision reflects the council's recognition of both states' investments in sports development and aligns with the federal government's broader agenda to upgrade infrastructure nationwide. Delegates also endorsed key reforms, including mandatory centralized insurance coverage for all state contingents and the construction of international standard swimming pools for upcoming festival hosts, beginning with Enugu for the 2026 Coal City Games. The council additionally approved the launch of the National Intermediate Games for athletes aged between the ages of 17 and 20, with Lagos set to host the inaugural edition in 2026. And that's all on Sports News tonight. Entertainment is up next with Kate.
Time for entertainment, as Tunde said. Over to you, Kate.
Thank you very much, Felicity. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
All right, tonight in the world of entertainment, the Actors Guild of Nigeria President Emeka Rollas, alongside the Directors Guild of Nigeria and the Association of Movie Producers, has suspended Nollywood actor Taye Arimoro over an altercation on the movie set of actress and producer Peggy Ovire. The joint disciplinary panel found Arimoro to be the primary aggressor and confirmed that he assaulted the production manager and driver while also sharing a misleading video online. He has been suspended from all Nollywood productions until further notice and must issue public apologies and a corrective statement. Peggy Ovire, on the other hand, though not involved in the initial fight, was directed to submit apology letters for her role in the escalation outside the set. Now moving on, Ira Star is set to headline a special conversation and performance session at the Grammy Museum's New York series on December 16, 2025. The event, scheduled to be held at National Sawdust in Brooklyn, will feature an in-depth discussion about her artistic journey, musical influences, and rise within the global Afrobeat scene. The conversation will be moderated by music journalist Jenna Jefferson, followed by an intimate live performance from the singer. Now, this appearance marks another milestone in Ira Star's international growth, coming shortly after she earned a 2026 Grammy nomination for Best African Music Performance with her single, Gimme That. And that does it on Entertainment News tonight. My name is Kate Adeogun.
Offering tonight, as always, we'll appreciate your feedback. Please share them using the phone number showing now on your screen. You can follow us on all social media platforms as well, at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. Thank you for watching. Good night.